Hello everyone, it's Makeda Voletta, also known as the Body Scientist and the Renaissance Amazon. I am doing this live right now on my Instagram page, the Renaissance Amazon, and I will post it on my Instagram pages. In case you don't follow me on Instagram, it's the_Renaissance_Amazon_81, I think, right? I'll put it below on my YouTube video. And I'm also recording this in a separate camera to post on my YouTube page. So, in case you are unfamiliar with me, I have a Bachelor of Science in Exercise and Sports Science and Nutrition Science with a focus on strength and conditioning. And I then went to graduate school at Columbia University for applied physiology and nutrition. And my graduate program that I went to was the only nutrition program in the country that was not funded by the food industry, okay? All the nutrition programs in the US are funded by the food industry, the same way all of the medical programs are funded by the drug companies. And the food and the drug companies are the same people. You have the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, they're the same people. And the food companies are even more powerful than the drug companies even, okay? And before I got into exercise and sports science, I was into biotechnology, which has everything to do with genetic engineering and microbes. And my goal or my passion was to become a scientist and study the cures for genetic diseases, okay? So the world of microbes and viruses and bacteria and just science as it pertains to our bodies has been something that I have been studying since the 90s, okay? And I feel like, you know, all of us can't know everything, right? But there's a real lack of scientific literacy amongst a lot of people. And when you don't have scientific literacy and are completely just clueless about stuff, and I feel like especially as how it pertains to your body, but everything is interlinked. So environmental science is linked to body science because the environment affects our body and vice versa. So they are kind of interlinked. But I feel like when you don't understand that, it's easy to trick you, okay? And a lot of things that people are told when it comes to how to prevent diseases, how to prevent cancer, how to prevent heart disease, how to prevent infections, you know, most of the things that the public is told is wrong information, okay? Most of it is wrong information. And it's the opposite, okay? If you go on the American Heart Association's website, everything they tell you to do to prevent heart disease is wrong. All that stuff causes heart disease. Everything they tell you to do to prevent cancer, it causes. And it's like the things that people really need to know, a lot of times they're not told. And a lot of times there's a disconnect between scientists and practitioners, okay? Practitioners a lot of times do not read scientific research, and the scientists don't work with people. Okay, so when it comes to being healthy and why there's such an epidemic of cancer, okay? Cancer has now beat heart disease as the #1 killer, or might be tied with heart disease last I checked, as the #1 killer of all Americans. The fastest growing rate of cancer is in children, okay? And that's not shocking when you know the things that I know, okay? And cancer usually, not always, but usually doesn't come from one source. It usually is coming from multiple things, okay? And you have multiple carcinogens, and that plays a role. And so there are a lot of things that people do just in their lifestyle that is disease causing. And it goes far beyond eating so-called fried foods and sugar, okay? It goes far beyond that. Now, lately, a lot of people have heard me talking a lot about vitamin D, especially I just got back from Colombia, and I was doing a lot of Instagram posts about vitamin D. I also did a YouTube video about it on my page, my other YouTube page, TheBodyScientist 81, but I need to do an updated video on vitamin D because there's a lot more for me to say about it and its importance in our immune system and a lot of other things, okay? But vitamin D deficiency is a huge issue on the planet. Most people on the planet have a vitamin D deficiency, and it plays such an important role with our immunity, okay, among other things. And what people are told, is really kind of swept under the rug, but even what people are told to do, a lot of that is not even the full truth, okay? And then, being half naked in the sun, being mostly naked, 90% naked in the sun is important. But because of colonization all over the world, it's like you're being inappropriate if you're outside naked in the sun. That's a hard thing for people to do, even. But also, it's like with this whole coronavirus thing, I did a video 2 days ago on my other YouTube page, TheBodyScientist81. So if you haven't seen it, make sure to go look at it. I did a video on it, and after that, I saw a video by this doctor. I think his name is Dr. Bergman, and he was saying all the things that I was saying, okay, about immunity, how important it is to build up your microbiome. Okay, scientific literacy is important because people don't understand viruses and bacteria and what they do, infection, how we have our own microbiomes. And the best way to prevent infectious disease is not by living in a plastic bubble. Okay? It's not by putting plastic over something. That's not the best way to prevent infectious disease. Our body has so many powerful mechanisms to protect us against internal and external threats. But if we don't feed our body and give our body what it needs, and if we are constantly poisoning our bodies by putting toxic lotion on our skin, by using chemical soap on our skin, by using sunscreen on our skin, by spraying all these chemical air fresheners in the air, using toxic soap and detergents when we clean, okay? All of these things increase our toxic load and decrease our body's ability to actually fight off something when we're exposed to something, okay? I have multiple videos where I'm talking about probiotics, intestinal dysbiosis, building up our immunity. I will post those videos below. But I just feel like, I just finished watching a bunch of videos on looking at a bunch of research on cell phones, okay, and the damage that it does to us. Now, I've always known, like, I never, ever use Bluetooth headphones or Bluetooth anything, because I know that Bluetooth and putting the phone next to your head greatly increases your chance for brain cancer. I've known this for over a decade, right? A lot of people walk around with their phone here, and now people have wireless earphones, which uses Bluetooth technology, which greatly increases the amount of radiation that your brain is being exposed to. But it's not just the brain. If you are walking with your cell phone in your pocket, on your thigh, it's exposing your sexual organs to a whole bunch of radiation. It causes a lot of damage, and this is in men and in women, okay? There are women who put cell phones in their bra. There's a lot of doctors who are removing tumors and stuff on breast because of that. Breast tissue is mostly fat and liquid, which is the perfect environment to brew up cancer, okay, with radiation. And I will do more in-depth videos on this on my other YouTube page, TheBodyScientist81, and on my Patreon page that I'm working on starting soon, where I will go more in depth into the science. Because, I spent years studying the science behind, like reading scientific studies. A lot of people recite, talk about studies and recite the so-called findings of a study, but they never ever looked up that study. They never read that study, and they don't have the scientific wherewithal to even be able to understand the study that they read. With science, it's very important to be specific, because you can say, oh, cigarettes are bad, tobacco is bad, causes cancer, right? But it depends on where those cigarettes came from. Some cigarettes are really bad and cancer causing because of the chemicals that's put all over the tobacco and everything else. But then there's other cigarettes and tobacco that doesn't have all those chemicals on it, and it won't cause that. Just like when people say like fried food is bad for you, it depends on what you're frying in it. Depends on what it is you're frying and what you're frying it in. Okay? If you could take some beef in the commercial, not forget about beef. if you took some potatoes that are covered up in pesticides and grown in, depleted soil, then those potatoes already don't really have much nutritional value, and they're covered in cancer-causing chemicals. And then now you fry it in some canola oil, some corn oil, vegetable oil, which is highly carcinogenic. That's totally different than if somebody got some potatoes that was grown in good soil and they fried it in duck fat, or they fried it in pasture lard, or they fried it in beef tallow. Totally different, okay? And there's so much propaganda that gets pushed, and people do not understand science. People don't understand how to evaluate stuff. There's a lot of politics in science, which is the reason why I kind of got out of it. Can't judge a book by its cover, because, a lot of people may not understand how much into science I am. And it's like, I have been working with clients since 2003 when I graduated college, but even before that I was working with clients. But I really woke up, when it came to the nutrition side of things. And nutrition, when it comes to nutrition and exercise physiology, exercise science, that's everything that you need to know about how the body functions. When I tell you I have dedicated my life to learning all the things that goes in to our bodies functioning at its highest level, that is rooted in the nutrition sciences and the exercise sciences, okay? So, there's a lot of things I'm constantly seeing. All these women pushing waist trainers. Waist trainers are very bad for you. They are very, very bad for your internal organs. And I would bet anybody a bunch of money that in 10 years or less, we're going to start seeing and hearing about the detrimental effects of women wearing these goddamn waist trainers. Our internal organs need to breathe. They need to be fluid, okay? Having them restricted is really, really bad, okay? And you have all these women, celebrities, and so-called trainers pushing this shit, pushing low-fat diets, pushing, I'm gonna use hand sanitizer and sunscreen and all this, and selling chemical crap that's full of carcinogens. So for me, I've dedicated my life to educating people, and that's what I do with my clients. Even though, I always wanted to just work with a couple people at once, because I put a lot into working with my clients, and it's like overwhelming because there's not enough time for all the people that I have to deal with. And so then I'm like, I know I have books to write, but there are also a lot of books that have already been written, okay? And a lot of people do not know how to do research. They're just researching on YouTube, or they're just researching on Google. No, you have to read books. There's a lot of things that are only in books, okay? There's a lot of things you're not going to find on Google or YouTube or on somebody's blog, okay? Also, in order to understand and dissect scientific studies, you have to have some kind of background in science and understand even this stuff. But you have to look at the methods of this study. How was the study done? What was used? How are they measuring certain things? How are they defining certain things? If you haven't done those things, then whatever the so-called study says means nothing. You need to break that down. Okay, and so anybody who follows me on either one of my pages, TheBodyScientist or the Renaissance Amazon, knows that I'm thorough with my research and critical thinking skills. But there's a lack of scientific literacy. And there's so much fear over this coronavirus and the things that, people need to do to protect themselves from it. It's more than just washing your hands. You want to have a strong immune system, right? But having a strong immune system has a lot to do with you having adequate vitamin D levels. It has to do with you building up your own microbiome, having enough good probiotics, and not exposing yourselves to a bunch of antibiotics and antibacterial agents. It has to do with the other things that you're putting in your body to help aid your immune system, and it also has to do with your toxic load. What kind of things are you exposing yourself and the stresses that you put in your body? So it's. Again, I did a video. I'm not going to do a long scientific video right now on the coronavirus. I did that a couple days ago on my page, TheBodyScientist81. I will put the video below on my YouTube page. Below this YouTube video. But if you haven't seen it, I suggest you go look at it, because a lot of you love to watch me dance, and I put stuff up and I'm dancing in a bikini. I'll get so many views. But when I'm telling people things that can help to save you and your loved ones, people barely care. People barely care. And, I don't know, like for me, when it comes to me and my family, like I want to live a long time and I want to be healthy. I don't want to live a long time and be sickly. Sorry, those are my speakers. I don't want to live a long time and be sickly and limited. And when it comes to my parents, I'm very much on my parents and taking care of them. And it's like, neither one of my parents are sick. But I'm thankful that I know what I know, because there's a lot of things that you have to take into account as people age. And all that stuff is really important. I don't want my parents to get Alzheimer's. I don't want them to be disabled and in the home. I don't want them to die of cancer or any of those things. So you don't just live life randomly and hope that you don't get heart disease and hope that you don't get cancer and hope, and like you have no say in your outcome and how long you live and how you die. Like when it comes to freak accidents, no, like we can't always prevent everything. But when it comes to your health, there's a lot of things that you can do to ensure that you live your best life, okay? And that's what I specialize in. That is what I do. And I'm very well researched. So I just, and it's my job to help people, increase their scientific literacy, especially as it pertains to the body, okay? Because most of the world, most people, average people, they're not really tuned into science and don't really understand a lot of things. And it takes, a lot of times there's a disconnect between the scientists, like I said, and the practitioners or the people. And so there needs to be a translation. And that is what I'm going to focus on doing on my Patreon page that I'm starting, because it's a lot of work for me to do it here, because these videos are free, and it's time consuming. So I will be starting a Patreon page soon. And then hopefully that can also help me get my book done sooner. I have several that I'm working on, but it's hard because I have so many other things to do. There's just people, like scientific literacy and critical thinking skills is lacking. It's really, really important to have better scientific literacy, to try to understand certain things. And so even though everything is not on YouTube and Google, there is a lot that you can find, but it's like the average person, you sometimes doesn't know what to listen to, because you see conflicting things, and I don't know. But I think enough of this babble. I just think that scientific literacy is a big issue. You have financial literacy, and we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. Some people understand money really well, but they don't understand how their body works, or health or science very well. And they all matter. But to me, and I'm working on, strengthening my financial literacy, but the way I see it is, money doesn't matter if you die at 45, Money doesn't matter if you die at 55. You could have spent all your life trying to focus on how to stack this money, but you're dead at 55. So it's like, for me, my health and longevity really matters. And the older we get, the more that we see that time flies really quickly. And so I don't even remember if I said what I was going to say about the cell phone things, but there's so much about the cell phones that people should know, and that a lot of the companies know and have kind of put out in ways that you wouldn't even understand it, okay? So we miss it. But putting the cell phones, I did talk about this, in our pockets, in your bra. When I work out, I put my cell phone on my arm. And I never wanted to put it in a waist thing, because I don't want it to be around my sexual organs. I've always thought that was bad. But the other day I couldn't find my arm thing, and they only had waist belts in the store, so I bought that. And the whole time, I don't care if it was right here or behind me, it didn't feel right, And I'm like, I'm not using this again. So it's like a lot of people are just living life and totally not conscious of these things. People, cancer is on the rise. There's a lot of kids getting cancer, a lot of kids with brain cancer and brain tumors, okay? And another thing they were talking about was the iPads, kids holding iPads, and how much radiation these kids are being exposed in their whole entire body to just from holding an iPad. Because iPads weren't designed for us to hold in our hands. They were designed to be on a table and blah, 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 blah. And so kids are even more sensitive when it comes to that. There's a lot of research around this damage. And people, people just don't wake up with cancer. People just don't wake up with this and that. Like, it comes from years of you not realizing that you're exposing yourself to something, and or that you're not doing what you need to do to, giving your body certain things, and that's what I study. And I'm telling you, it's all rooted in lifestyle practices. Okay, so I hope you guys maybe learned something from this. And if you don't follow me on Instagram and YouTube at TheBodyScientist, make sure you do. So on Instagram, it's the_body_scientist. And on YouTube, it's TheBodyScientist 81. Okay? All right, people. Have a good day. Bye.